The day of Grandfather William's will reading wasn't supposed to be like this. I stood in the corner of his grand study, watching my stepsister Victoria parade around like she already owned everything. In a way, she did. The preliminary will had left her nearly everything, while I got nothing but a small box of old photographs. It's only right, Victoria had smirked, adjusting her designer blazer. After all, I'm the one who visited him every weekend, who helped with his business meetings, who was there at every family dinner. What she didn't mention was how she'd systematically worked to keep me away from Grandfather William for the past 5 years. The mysterious schedule conflicts whenever I tried to visit, the private family dinners I wasn't invited to, the lost messages that never reached me. Emily, my father called from across the room, standing awkwardly beside my stepmother Diana. Come sit down. Mr. Patterson is about to begin. Mr. Patterson, the family lawyer, looked uncomfortable as he shuffled his papers. I'd known him since childhood. He'd been grandfather's friend as much as his lawyer. Today, he wouldn't meet my highs. As per the most recent will, dated 3 months ago, Mr. Patterson began, the estate of William Montgomery Sr., including Montgomery Industries and all associated properties, will pass to Victoria Chen Montgomery. The summer house in Cape Cod goes to Diana Montgomery and to Emily Montgomery. He paused, glancing at me apologetically. A collection of family photographs and personal effects. Victoria's triumphant laugh cut through the room. Finally, what a real daughter deserves. I felt my face burn. 5 years of manipulation had paid off for her. 5 years since my stepmother Diana had married my father and brought Victoria into our lives. 5 years of watching her slowly take everything that had once been mine. First my father's attention, then my place in the family, and now my inheritance. There is one additional matter, Mr. Patterson added, his voice strange. Mr. Montgomery left specific instructions about his personal safe. Victoria waved dismissively. I already have the combination. Grandfather gave it to me months ago. Actually, Mr. Patterson said, there's a second safe, behind the portrait of his late wife. The room fell silent. I looked at the painting of my grandmother Elizabeth, the grandmother I'd never met, but had heard so many stories about. The portrait had hung in grandfather's study for decades. That's impossible, Victoria snapped. I've been in this room hundreds of times. There's no safe there. Mr. Patterson walked to the portrait and carefully lifted it from the wall. Behind it was a sleek digital safe I'd never seen before. The combination, he said clearly, is Emily's birthday. My heart stopped. Victoria's face turned red. What? No, there must be some mistake. Grandfather would never. Mr. Patterson entered the numbers. 11 to 24, 1995. The safe clicked open. Inside was a single USB drive and an envelope with my name written in grandfather's distinctive handwriting. What is that? Diana demanded, stepping forward. Whatever it is, it belongs to Victoria now. The will clearly states. The will, Mr. Patterson interrupted, doesn't cover items in this safe. These were left under separate instruction. With trembling hands, I opened the envelope and began to read. My dearest Emily, if you're reading this, then everything has happened as I feared it might. The changes to my will, my apparent distance from you, it was all part of a plan. You see, 5 years ago, I discovered something disturbing about Victoria and Diana's past. Something that made me realize they were not who they claimed to be. But I couldn't confront them directly. I needed proof. So I played along with their game, watching as they manipulated their way into our family's heart. And while they thought they were winning, I was gathering evidence. The USB drive contains everything. The fraudulent documents, the recorded conversations, the money trails. But most importantly, it contains my true will, digitally signed and legally binding, dated just 1 week ago. Victoria's not what she claims to be, Emily. She's not even Diana's real daughter. Keep reading, my dear granddaughter. The truth changes everything. I looked up from the letter to find the ruined chaos. Victoria was screaming at Mr. Patterson, demanding he open the safe again. Diana was on her phone, frantically whispering to someone. And my father was staring at me like he was seeing me for the first time. Mr. Patterson, I said quietly, holding up the USB drive. I believe we need to see what's on this. The real story was just beginning, and for the first time in 5 years, I felt my grandfather's presence beside me, guiding me toward the truth. Victoria's perfectly crafted world was about to shatter. and I had front row seats to watch it fall. Mr. Patterson connected the USB drive to grandfather's computer, and the large screen on the wall flickered to life. Victoria lunged forward. "This is ridiculous. I demand we stop this right now." "Sit down, Victoria," Mr. Patterson said firmly, "or I'll have security escort you out." The first file that opened was a birth certificate. Victoria's birth certificate, but it wasn't the one she'd shown the family. This one had a different mother's name, different date, different place of birth. "What is this?" my father whispered. "Keep watching," I said, grandfather's letter clutched in my hand. The next document was a series of emails between Diana and someone named Margaret Chen. My heart stopped as I read them. "The plan is working perfectly. William believes you're my daughter. Once we get the inheritance, we'll split it 70-30 as agreed. The real Victoria will never know her identity was stolen." Diana's face went pale. "Those emails are fake." "Actually," Mr. Patterson interrupted, "they're not. Your entire plot is documented here. How you found out about the real Victoria Chen, who was given up for adoption at birth. How you obtained her birth records. How you crafted this entire deception." More files appeared. Bank statements showing regular payments to someone named Margaret Chen, medical records that have been altered, and finally a video. Grandfather's face filled the screen, dated just 2 weeks ago. "Emily, if you're watching this, then everything has come to light. 5 years ago, I received an anonymous letter warning me about Diana and her supposed daughter. At first, I didn't believe it, but something felt wrong. The way they pushed you out, the way they tried to isolate me from you. So I hired investigators. What they uncovered was shocking." The video continued, with grandfather explaining how he'd played along, gathering evidence, waiting for the right moment. He'd known he was sick, known his time was running out, but he'd made sure the truth would come out. "The woman claiming to be Victoria," he said, "is an actress named Rachel Turner. Diana hired her to play the role of her daughter. The real Victoria Chen lives in Seattle, never knowing her identity was stolen." Victoria, or rather Rachel, jumped up. "You can't prove any of this." "Actually," Mr. Patterson said, "we can. The police are already involved. They're waiting outside." As if on cue, 2 detectives entered the study. Diana burst into tears, while Rachel tried to run but was quickly stopped. "And now," Mr. Patterson said, opening another file, "the real will." Everything had been left to me, the company, the properties, everything. But there was a condition. I had to find the real Victoria Chen and make things right. The next hour was a blur of police statements and legal documents. I watched as Diana and Rachel were led away in handcuffs, my father looking shell-shocked beside me. "I'm so sorry, Emily," he kept saying. "I had no idea." Later that evening, alone in grandfather's study, my study now, I found one last letter in the safe, along with a small key. "My dearest Emily, by now you know the truth. But there's one last thing. The key enclosed opens a deposit box at First National. Inside you'll find everything you need to locate the real Victoria Chen. She deserves to know her true identity, and you, my brave granddaughter, deserve to have a real sister. I'm sorry I had to put you through this deception. Watching you suffer while I gathered evidence was the hardest thing I've ever done. But I knew you were strong enough to endure it. You're a Montgomery after all. Remember, success isn't just about wealth or power. It's about doing what's right, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. All my love, Grandfather." 1 week later, I stood outside a small coffee shop in Seattle, watching a young woman who had my grandfather's eyes and my grandmother's smile. The real Victoria Chen was a kindergarten teacher who'd been adopted at birth, never knowing her true heritage. "Miss Chen," I said, approaching her table, "I'm Emily Montgomery, and I have quite a story to tell you." She looked up curious. "Montgomery? Why does that name sound familiar?" I sat down, placing grandfather's photo album between us. "Because it's your name too, and I think it's time you learned about your real family." As I opened the album to show her our grandfather's face, I smiled, knowing he was watching over both of us. Diana and Rachel were facing fraud charges. My father was in therapy, dealing with his guilt. And me? I was finally where I belonged, running the company grandfather had built and gaining something I never expected, a real sister. Sometimes justice comes in unexpected ways. Sometimes the truth takes time to emerge. And sometimes, just sometimes, a grandfather's love can reach beyond the grave to make everything right again. As Victoria and I talked late into the evening, sharing stories and discovering our shared connection, I realized that this wasn't just about an inheritance anymore. It was about family, real family, and grandfather, in his wisdom, had given me the greatest gift of all. The truth. The company would thrive under my leadership. The real Victoria would learn about her heritage and choose her own path. And somewhere, I knew grandfather was smiling, knowing that his final plan had worked perfectly. Justice had been served, not with violence or revenge, but with truth and love. And in the end, that was worth more than any inheritance could ever be.